Hello and welcome to Rybrook Worcester BMW, and welcome to a question that we are frequently asked about electric cars, and that's this. We all know they work on short, sharp journeys around town, but do they work on a long distance drive? Well, today I'm going to find out, because I'm going to drive this BMW iX3 from here right the way down to the beach. It's a journey of around 170 miles, and well, I think there's only one thing to do, and that's to get cracking. Okay then, so we begin. The car is currently showing 180 miles of range, which obviously is lower than predicted, because these cars obviously predict how far it's going to go depending on how it was driven last. So obviously it's been driven quickly. But obviously we're not going to be doing that today, but I will stress that I'm going to drive this car as I would completely normally. I don't want to do hypermiling. I don't want to stick it into Eco Pro and have no air conditioning, no sound, no anything. If I want my heated seats on, I'll have my heated seats on. If I want my air conditioning on, I will have my air conditioning on. So I'm going to do this completely normal, just as if you were going for a little trip down to the beach with your family, just completely normal driving, as if I was in an internal combustion engine car. But obviously I'm not. So what are the details then of this iX3? Well, it's claimed to get around 285 miles on a full charge. Obviously, the range is currently lower, as I've just mentioned, because of how it was driven last. And we've got, if you can see on this camera, 167 miles to go. We've got 3 hours, which I think is a pretty typical drive to the seaside. We're going down to Devon, we're going down to Woolacombe, beautiful part of the country. And well, this is just what you do in your summer holidays. We've just had Easter here in the UK, so it's very, very popular to be going away and going and spending some time at the beach. So that's exactly what I'm going to do now. Now, I will explain that the vast majority of this drive is motorway, which I know is not great for an electric vehicle. But I did check last night on BMW's own range calculator, and it stated that with a vast majority of motorway miles, this car would do around 250 miles on a charge. So we'll put that to the test today as well. We'll see just how far this car will go on a full charge. As I say, we've got a full charge now, but let's see what happens. We've got a big old stint on the motorway to begin, and we'll see where the day takes us, shall we? We'll probably need to charge at some point, so that's going to be quite interesting to show you guys how easy or how difficult it might be to charge this car in public, because obviously that's one of the things that is spoke about a lot, the infrastructure, etc, etc. So let's get onto the motorway and let's start this day trip to the beach in an electric car, shall we? So whilst we're on the long old motorway journey down south, I just wanted to talk to you about this iX3. Now, it's available in two different specs. You've got an M Sport and you've got the M Sport Pro. This particular car is a Pro, which means you get absolutely every single conceivable option on it. And we've got it. You name it, we've got it in this car. One thing that I'm really noticing is really nice is the adaptive cruise control, which I'm currently using because we're now slowing down, as usual in the UK, to some traffic. But what it does is it links onto the car in front. You set it at a limit, which obviously on the motorways here in the UK is 70 miles an hour. So if you set the limit to 70, the car will then not go above 70, but just like here, if we hit traffic, it will then slow the car down and actually bring it to a stop, which is very, very useful. You can change the distance that it follows the car in front, which I think is incredibly useful as well. And we've also got steering assistance in this car, so actually, I mean, you can take your hands off the wheel, but the car won't let you. Theoretically you can, but obviously for safety reasons you can't. As long as you keep a pressure point on the steering wheel, however, it'll steer for you. It'll keep you in lane, it'll keep going, which means that on a long distance drive like this, it's pretty spot on. But the iX3 for me actually is one of the hidden gems of the lineup. I want my electric car, and now this is personal preference, obviously it depends on the person, but I'd rather my electric car just look like an ordinary car. I don't want to be different and quirky and out there if I had an electric car. I wouldn't want an iX, for example, or an i3. I'd want my car to look like a normal car. And this does. I think it's a cracking looking thing from the outside. That it's had a facelift around 12 to 18 months ago. So now it looks fresh, it looks modern. You've got all the equipment you're ever going to need. So you've got a digital display directly in front of me. This car's got a heads-up display as well, which is incredibly useful. You've got Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, heated seats, a lovely panoramic sunroof as well. But I mean, you've got everything you're ever going to need, and they are lovely to drive, these things. They really are. It still feels like a BMW to drive, which for me is vitally important. If I'm going to turn to electric, I want it to still feel like an ordinary car. I want it to still feel like a BMW, the ultimate driving machine. I don't want it to feel like something completely different. I want it to feel just like a BMW, and this iX3 really does. So far, so good. We've only done about 15, 20 miles, but the range is slowly creeping up, obviously, because we're now doing a bit more economical driving. We're sat on the motorway. I mean, at the minute we're only doing 52, but when you get up to 70 miles an hour, it's nice and quiet, comfortable and easy to drive. Barely feels like you're in electric, to be honest. Feels just like a regular internal combustion engine car, just quieter because you've got no transmission noise, you've got no engine noise, you've got no nothing. It's a lovely place to sit. But anyway, as I say, we've got a long old slog. 154 miles left, 2 hours 45 minutes, and the range is currently showing 183 miles, but I probably will stop off at some point just to top it up, just to be safe. And well, let's get my head down and let's just keep going, shall we? Okay, so time for a little update on some of the things that I'm finding while driving this car on the motorway. You do find yourself thinking a little bit different. You're looking at your range and going, ooh, do I need to charge? Am I going to make it all the way? Do I need to stop off? What am I going to do when I get there? Is there going to be a charger so I can get back? You do start thinking a little bit different. Now, another thing that I've noticed whilst we've been on the motorway, now we've been about 50 miles on the motorway, but I've noticed that now we're getting a bit further south towards Devon. The roads are a little bit more up and down. We've got a bit more gradient. From Worcester, where I started, to here, it's been quite flat, and we've basically been using battery constantly because there's just, you don't slow down. I mean, to be honest, I've not touched the pedals since we got on the motorway. That's how good the cruise control system is. Anyway, not talking about that. Because we have been completely flat, the cruise control's been set, it's just been using power to keep it at that speed. So we've been just using battery, and not using any regen. But now we're getting to the more hilly bits, this southern England. When we're going down, we're now getting some regen. I've got the car set to high. You can change it in the system. You can go adaptive, high, medium, low, etc. But now we're getting some regen. The range is now starting to creep back up again, which, I mean, it's fascinating, to be honest. Driving an electric car, and especially on a long distance journey like this, is so different to driving an internal combustion, because with an internal combustion, you just go. You wouldn't even think about any of these things. But in an electric car, I don't know whether it's just me. If you've got an electric car, let us know in the comments below your thought process and things. Maybe it's just me, but you don't really, you think more. You don't you don't just go into autopilot. You do have to think a little bit more about your journey, about where you're stopping, if you need to stop, and all that sort of stuff. Am I getting enough regen? Am I building on the battery? Am I just using it all? Am I using my air conditioning too much? Am I doing this? Am I doing that? But yeah, it's very fascinating, and I'm learning all these things as I go. But anyway, we've not got long until some services. I am going to absolutely have to stop to do a wee. And while I'm doing that, I'll probably plug the car in, because why not? Surely that's the whole point. When you get to somewhere like this, your service station, you're going to be in there 10, 15 minutes. You may as well plug it in and get some battery back. Surely that's the whole point. So, and also, I'm not sure if you can see out of the camera behind me, the weather's turning. It wouldn't be a trip to the beach in the UK without some rain. So let's keep going, and I'll catch up with you at the service station. So here we are then, at the services. Now technically I don't actually need any charge to get us to our destination, but I need a wee, so I'm going to top the car up while I'm here, which I think is probably the easiest thing to do. So if we come round to the back, this is a CCS charger, and all we need to do to charge is go into the system, choose which one we want, click start, take it out, and then all we need to do, plug it in and tap your card. And it's as simple and as easy as that to charge the iX3. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to go and use the loos. Okay, so that turned out to be the least pleasant stop because the weather just absolutely turned. I think we've got actually a storm rolling in. I can't remember what they've called it so far. But anyway, quick stop for around 10-15 minutes. We've gained around 30 miles of range on the 50 kilowatt charger back there. However, it only charges at 44 by the looks of it, but that's not a problem. So we've gained about 30 miles range. We've got 60 miles to go until we get to the beach, although I'm not sure it's going to be the most picturesque of days down at the beach today, because as you can probably see on this camera and that one, it is horrid outside. But let's talk about how much that just cost. So it was about £5 for that slight bit of charging. It was £65 per kilowatt. And well, if you work that out, that's not actually too bad thinking about it. But what I would recommend is making sure you've got a home wall box, because that minimises the need to charge out on the go. Obviously, if you're doing a long distance journey like this, you're probably going to want to. However, it definitely minimises the risk, and it minimises the reason for you to stop and recharge. It makes things much, much easier. If you want any more details on a wall box for your BMW electric car, please use the link in the description of this video to contact any of the guys at any of our Rydebrook sites. But yeah, we've got a little bit more of motorway driving to go, about 10 miles on the motorway, and then we're off on some back roads where we'll see what the regen capabilities are like of this car. So let's keep going in this awful rain, and I'll catch up with you guys again just before we get to Woolacombe. So I planned not to update until we got to the beach, but I just have to talk to you because the weather, I mean, I'm filming this, it's mid-April, okay? It's mid-April in the UK. The bank holiday wasn't long ago, it was lovely. But now we've got white on the road. It's hailing, it's freezing cold, it's windy. Like, I can't quite believe the difference. I can look back at the footage when I started this journey, right the way back in Worcester this morning to now. It's incredible. I mean, could have picked any worse day to do a long distance drive in an electric car. Firstly, the cold obviously affects batteries in a bad way. The wind obviously won't help with the aerodynamics and the slipperiness or whatever, but I can't quite believe it. It's just, I'm lost for words. Anyway, just thought I'd update you to say there's white stuff on the road. It's hailing like hell, but The iX3 is taking it all in its stride, and now I definitely will catch up with you when we get to the beach. I'm not sure how much we're going to be able to see because, well, the weather's horrific. Well, typical British weather, it's absolutely horrific down here, but that's not the point. We have made it down here 180 odd miles in the BMW iX3. It's been comfortable, it's been easy to drive, the sound system's great, it's beautiful to drive, the regen is fantastic when you get it to some twisty roads. It's been fabulous, and all we've had to do is top it up once, and that's it. So if you want any more information on the BMW iX3 or any electric vehicle for that matter, please use the link in the description of this video to contact the guys at Ryber BMW. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel for many more to come. I'm gonna get back in the car, gonna throw it down. We'll see you again soon.